a lot to cover today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Oh, I guess first of all, a couple of items of business. Your exam is due by midnight tonight. I know at least a few of you have taken it already. If you haven't done it yet, please don't wait till the last minute. I know you have till midnight, but I think you have 60 minutes to complete the exam. So make sure you've allotted yourself enough time. Don't start after 11, else you may run out of time. Grades for homework have been put in, and those have been corrected. I've gone back through Top Hat and looked at everybody's grades and their responses. So your grade in Canvas should be accurate, okay? So,
Are you gonna go through every homework?
I think I have to, which stinks because it will mark you wrong if you spell it wrong, or if it's a phrase, if you don't put the exact words that the answer key says, it's going to mark you wrong, which is, I think, a kind of an error in their program. But so I will have to go back through and check things. Okay. But if when you're doing homework you feel like it's grading you wrong, please alert me. But I will try to go through and double check everyone's replies before I give you a grade from now on.
Okay.
Yeah. Good question. Okay. So we are going to finish up with the ear, and we're going to keep on moving because we have a lot to cover today. Oops. Sorry, I have the wrong PowerPoint. Just give me a second here. Oh no, I know what the problem is. It closed. That's great. That's awesome. Okay. Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna get right into it. The ear. Okay, two major functions of the ear: hearing and your balance or your sense of equilibrium. So some people may not realize that your ear has more than one sense associated with it. So you have two senses, your hearing and your balance or your equilibrium. So we're going to talk about the structures of the ear. First, talking about the external ear. The pinna is the term referred to as what we think of as our ear, the external ear. This whole section is the pinna. And even more, there are specific names for certain parts of the ear. So the upper portion of the ear, where some people pierce their ear up there, is the helix. Inside the helix is the antihelix. Another place that people pierce their ear is the tragus, right there, that little bump. People do that for migraines. I've heard that can help sometimes. Other people just do it for style. But so you know that is the tragus. So associated with the tragus is the antitragus. So you notice we have two pairs. We have the tragus and the antitragus, and the helix and the antihelix. So you have two terms that are used multiple times, so that kind of helps. So you don't have to learn as many terms. And then you have this little notch right here between the tragus and the antitragus, your intertragic notch. So it actually has the word tragus in it again. So some more. We have the triangular fossa. So if you can kind of think about it, this portion here is kind of like a triangle, and it's a dip inside the ear. So we call that the triangular fossa. So whenever you see the term fossa, it means kind of like an indentation, okay? Next to that is the crus. So if you feel your ear, you have that notch, the triangular fossa, and then a ridge. And that ridge right next to it is the crus. And then you have the scapha. So let's be technical. The scapha is in between the helix and the antihelix. And notice we have the term crus comes up 2 more times, and they are ridges in the ear. So the triangular fossa has a crus, a ridge on either side, and then you have that external ridge right here, which is the crus as well. Oh, another person coming in. And then this deep indentation, oops, it's not drawing, there we go. This deep indentation between these 2 crus is the Simba. Not Simba the lion, but Simba like symbols. And then really technical term, earlobe. That one would be an easy one for you on a quiz or an exam. I try to throw you some easy ones too. Okay, so here we're looking at the external ear, the middle ear, and the internal ear. So the ear is divided into 3 sections. So 1, external ear, 2, the middle ear, and 3, the inner ear. And so if we think about it in terms of sound waves, which we will talk about in just a little bit as far as what structures it passes through, sound waves enter in, pass through the auricle. This is the external ear until right here. And the opening to the ear, remember the skull, that big hole right there, your external acoustic meatus. Sound waves pass through that external acoustic meatus and hit the tympanic membrane, which is right here. The tympanic membrane separates the external ear from the middle ear. And in the middle ear, there are 3 important structures, the 3 smallest bones in your body. So your auditory ossicles. Oh, I'm open to the wrong page. But you have your incus, malleus, and your stapes. And you will need to know those bones. There's another picture coming up that will show you the bones, and they're labeled for you. But you have 3, that's what's going on in the middle ear, is your auditory ossicles. The other structure in the middle ear is the auditory tube, or sometimes it's referred to as the eustachian tube. This allows you to equalize the pressure in your middle ear. So if your ears feel like there's pressure in them, you know how you yawn, you go, oh, and you can feel your ear pop? Well, that's releasing the pressure on the tympanic membrane. That air escapes into the back of your throat. And then it releases the pressure and relieves the pressure on the tympanic membrane. Then you have right there, from here forwards, is your inner ear. And this is where the actual organ of hearing and equilibrium are housed. And so the organ of hearing is the cochlea. Organ of equilibrium and balance is in the vestibule, which is in this portion here, and in the semicircular canals. We don't talk about how that works in this class. You'll have to take physiology to learn how we are actually able to turn sound waves into hearing and balance and equilibrium. But it's pretty fascinating how detailed and how complex it is, and how we're able to hear and have the sense of standing upright, or head is tilted, or if you're on a Disney teacup ride and you're spinning around and around and around and you get dizzy and sick, that has to do with your semicircular canals. But I digress. I'm sorry. Associated with these two organs, hearing and equilibrium, are two nerves. The vestibular nerve, or the vestibular cochlear nerve, is actually the vestibular nerve and the cochlear nerve, and they come together to form the vestibular cochlear nerve. So you only need to know it as the vestibular cochlear nerve. And then you also have the facial nerve that comes in through there as well. So more on the external ear. So I talked about yawning, and now I have to yawn. I'm sorry. Okay, so the external ear, this is our pinna. The ear canal is our external acoustic meatus. I think I asked that on the exam. So hopefully you got that. If you haven't, make sure you look up that on the skull so you know where it is. And the external ear ends at the tympanic membrane. So the tympanic membrane is basically the divide between the external ear and the middle ear. So here we have the same picture. Here's our tympanic membrane right here. And that divides our external ear from our middle ear. So here is our middle ear. So if I ask you what structures would you find in the middle ear, I am asking you about those auditory ossicles, those 3 ear bones. So let me just write that: the malleus, incus, and stapes. Okay. So middle ear, now that I wrote it down, it's right here again. So this is actually housed inside the temporal bone. So that's a good question that I could ask you is, what bone is the middle ear found in? You should know it's in the temporal bone. If you remember looking at the inside of the skull, we had the petrous portion of the temporal bone. That is housing a lot of the organ of, it's housing the middle ear and the inner ear. So your 3 auditory ossicles, the malleus, also known as the hammer. And I will expect you to know the actual bone name, not the layman's term for it. The incus, or the anvil, and the stapes, also known as the stirrup. So stapes means stirrup. So if we back up really quick, oh, I drew on that picture. We'll have another picture. The stapes actually looks like an English saddle, English stirrup for an English saddle. So it's definitely named for the shape of the bone. Okay, then you have the auditory tube. I'm going to be nice and say auditory tube, and the layman's term for that is the eustachian tube. Ooh, I don't know if I can spell that. Eustachion. That could be the wrong spelling. That's a long word, eustachian tube. But as I mentioned before, it helps you equalize the pressure from your middle ear and relieve pressure from the tympanic membrane, and that exits to the back of your throat, and it exits near the tonsil actually. So it helps equalize pressure. So if you've ever been on an airplane before, one of the things they tell you is you do a lot of yawning when you take off because they're pressurizing the cabin, and that can put a lot of pressure on your eardrum, on your tympanic membrane, and yawning or chewing gum or eating something can help relieve that pressure through the eustachian tube, the auditory tube. Okay, I knew we had a close-up picture. So here is the middle ear. We have our 3 auditory ossicles. Our malleus always comes first. It's the biggest one. And the malleus is in direct contact with the tympanic membrane. Okay. Then the second bone, the one right in the middle, is the incus, or the other word for that is the anvil. And then, oh, excuse me, I'm equalizing pressure. Okay, then the last one is the stapes, and it's kind of hiding behind that muscle right there. I don't think you have to know the name of the muscle, but it's kind of a cool muscle because it's responsible for what's called the attenuation reflex. So if you've ever been to a concert or somewhere where it's really loud, that muscle will contract and pull the malleus away from the tympanic membrane so that it doesn't damage it. Because if the sound waves are really big, that malleus is going to vibrate with it and can damage the tympanic membrane. So that muscle contracts, pulls it away, and the attenuation reflex. The oval window is where, so let's see if I can try to draw a really simple stapes here. There is my simple stapes, okay? There's a structure on the vestibule called the oval window. So this is the vestibule. It's really big and ugly. This is the oval window. The stapes is in direct contact with the oval window. This is what allows it to transfer the vibrations from the auditory ossicles that go from the malleus to the incus to the stapes, and then those vibrations transfer to the oval window to the inner ear, where then that's where you have those sensory neurons that sense sound essentially, and your equilibrium, your balance, and it transmits it to your brain so that you can hear or tell where your body is in motion. So with your inner ear is your vestibule. This is where the oval window is found, is in the vestibule. There's also the semicircular canals, and then the cochlea. Okay, so in this picture, right there is where the stapes is touching the oval window. So they're touching each other. And inside the vestibule, it's kind of like a jelly substance. So when that stapes is vibrating, it vibrates that substance and transmits the sound waves into the cochlea. And then that's where sound waves are transmitted into nerve impulses. So what would you have to identify for the inner ear? The semicircular canal, these two lovely nerves, the facial nerve on top, vestibular cochlear nerve below, cochlea. Sorry, I apologize. My fire alarm's beeping even though I put a new battery in it today, and every time it beeps, my dog growls. So I apologize now. It's gonna happen like every 10 minutes. Okay, and then down here, our auditory tube. That's the term I'm gonna have you know. And then over here, our vestibule. So our vestibule is kind of this big bulbous portion there. Semicircular canals are these nice, cool looking loops. What's neat about those loops is each one is in a different plane. So when we talked about different body planes, so like the sagittal, coronal, or frontal, and transverse, each semicircular canal is in one of those planes. So it's able to sense movement in 3 dimensions. Okay, so we're not going to go in depth here. We're just going to kind of follow the sound waves through the structures from external ear to the inner ear. So you should know the sequence of structures. And if you know this picture, if you're able to identify this picture, you're going to be able to track the sound waves, okay? So starts with the external acoustic canal or meatus. Let's be correct here. meatus. Okay. Sound waves vibrate the tympanic membrane, which separates your external ear from your middle ear. And that tympanic membrane vibrates, and the malleus is in direct contact with it. So when it vibrates, the malleus vibrates, and then it transfers it to the incus, those sound waves, and it transfers to the stapes. Anybody want to tell me what comes after the stapes?
Oval window.
Yes, the oval window. Thank you. So the oval window, which is attached to the vestibule, which is attached to the cochlea, which is where hearing is sensed. And then from there, those neurons, those sensory neurons, then the signal is sent up the vestibular cochlear nerve to the brain. And I don't think we're going to get to the brain today, but we should get to it in the next class period. Okay, so here we have the same picture again. Sound wave, external ear, goes external acoustic meatus to the tympanic membrane, to the malleus, incus, stapes, this is the vestibule, and then to the cochlea. And then the vestibular cochlear nerve, which is made up of two nerves, to be correct. The vestibular nerve is here, and then the cochlear nerve is here, but they combine and leave as the vestibular cochlear nerve. So with hearing, as I mentioned before, those sound waves vibrate the tympanic membrane, which leads to a series of, it's kind of like, I'm blanking on it, the term I'm thinking of, but it basically transmits from one structure to another. Those vibrations just keep going. And then, so we have our three auditory ossicles, our malleus, our incus, and our stapes. And the stapes vibrates against the oval window. And as I mentioned before, you have fluid in that vestibule and in the cochlea. And so it vibrates that fluid in there, and it travels into the cochlea. And those vibrations trigger these special neurons. And when those are triggered, it sends that signal up the vestibular cochlear nerve. So that's what I was referring to, these cells in the organ of Corti, which you don't have to identify anything there because that's microscopic. And then the vestibular cochlear nerve transmits that signal to your brain, where then it is sensed as hearing. Okay, balance. Okay, so the vestibular, or I was calling it the vestibule, you can call it the vestibular complex or the vestibular apparatus. I've taught AMP for years and I've always just called it the vestibule. So as long as you know the first part of the word, you're good, okay? So I always refer to these separately as the vestibule and the semicircular canals. They sense different portions of your balance and your equilibrium. They kind of have different functions, but like two sides of the coin. So with a semicircular canal, you have those three, see if I can pretend, they're in three different planes. Inside these canals is fluid. And at the end of each of these is a special sensory organ. And when you move in whatever direction you're moving in, it causes the fluid to move. And the fluid will move in that plane, whatever directional plane that you're in. So let's say it's moving in this one right here, it triggers that special organ, and then that signal is sent to the brain that you are having movement in that direction. So that is the quick and dirty of the ear. Whoops. So let us see, what was the next one I was gonna do? Head and neck. So the next couple lectures we're gonna do is we're gonna do the muscles of the head and neck. Then we're gonna do the vessels of the head and neck. Then we're gonna do the brain. Okay? And I'll have to look at the schedule to see what we're gonna do after the brain, but that is our sequence to look forward to in the next couple of days. Okay, so skull and face muscles, and I have the right textbook. On page 348 is the picture of the head and neck muscles, just so you have, a picture to look at. And actually, before they do that, let's take roll really quick, and then we'll get into head and neck muscles, okay? So when I call your name, please just unmute yourself real quick and let me know that you are here. Amy.
Here.
Thank you. Danielle? Is Danielle Barkhurst here?
Sure.
I hear someone else's dog. Eric? Eric Bennett?
Here. Sorry.
Thank you. No, you're cool. Kirsten Brutus?
Here.
Kira Castle?
Here.
Miranda Collins?
Here.
Ashley Conley? Ashley, are you here? Okay. Grayson? No, Grayson. Crystal?
Here.
Thank
I'm
you.
here.
Oh, wait, who was that? Was that
Grayson.
Grayson?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. Chelsea?
Here.
Okay, Jason Hansen?
Here.
Madeline Johnson?
Here. Also, Danny's here, but her mic isn't working.
Oh, well, thank you for looking out for Danny. Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Ryan Kronberg.
That's me, Lou Brock.
Okay. Macy Lawler. Is Macy here? Okay. Corinne Longo.
Here.
Jessica Lucero. I know most everyone is here. Is Jessica here? Okay. Elizabeth Morales.
Here.
Jessica's here. She's trying to turn her mic on.
Okay. Thank you. Want to give you guys credit for being here. Anna Moran.
Here.
Ann Jeanette.
Here.
Morgan Reef.
Here.
Olivia Rogers. Olivia. Okay. Maisie.
Here.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, we will get into head and neck muscles. Well, yeah, head and neck. So if it's not in your book, you don't need to know it. And if it's not in the lecture, you don't need to know it for these muscles, okay? Okay, so first, the frontalis. And the frontalis covers your forehead, or specifically the frons region of the head. Okay? That one is a pretty easy word if you just think about front. It's in the front, it's in the forehead, F, front and forehead. Kind of helps to remember. The orbicularis oculi. I like this word. This muscle just has a cool name. So orbicularis oculi. So oculi is referring to the eye. So these are the muscles that surround the eye. And they're really thin, circular muscles. I've seen them on cadavers. It's really cool. You have to be pretty good at dissecting to get a good specimen to see the orbicularis oculi. So just think oculi is referring to the eye. The nasalis, kind of right over the bridge of your nose. So when you scrunch up your nose, right there, the nasalis is giving you that movement. I know, I just made a great face. Okay. Yes, that is in your book. Okay, the other orbicularis. So there's two muscles that have the term orbicularis in it. So orbicularis oculi is for the eye. Orbicularis oris is for the mouth. So it's the muscle that's right on the outside of your lip. Okay. Then you have this little muscle right on the tip of your chin called the mentalis. So one of the terms for the tip of your chin is the mental. It's literally mental. It's for the tip of your chin. I think the term, submandibular protuberance is what you had to learn. Another term for it is the genu, or the mental portion of the mandible. So if you know the mental portion of the mandible, then the muscle right over it makes sense. If it's the mentalis, it's covering the mental portion. So what's cool with muscles is a lot of muscles are named for the bone that they're associated with. That helps. So frontalis, frontal bone, that is associated with the bone that it's covering or in that region. And so with the mentalis, mental. Okay, on either side of the mentalis, so lateral to the mentalis on either side, is the depressor labii interioris. And see, is that one actually? Yes, that one is in your book. It's kind of a broad, flat muscle on either side going in the kind of an oblique directions. So you can see that labeled number 6 on either side right there. Okay, then lateral to the depressor labii inferioris is the depressor anguli oris. So anguli refers to as angle, oris, mouth. So depressor is talking about the function of that muscle depressing the jaw. So depressing the jaw, the muscle's at an angle, and it's associated with the mouth. So muscles can be named by their muscle shape, by their muscle function, and their muscle location. And so this particular muscle is named after all three of those things. So you can see it right here, number 7. Okay, then you have a set of 2 muscles, the zygomatic muscles. The zygomatic minor, or zygomaticus minor, is this thin little muscle that extends from the orbicularis oris up to your zygomatic bone up here. Okay. Then below the zygomaticus minor is the zygomaticus major. And it's called major because it's larger. Okay, so notice how it's fatter than the zygomaticus minor. So that's why it's called major. So it extends from the corner of your mouth up to the zygomatic bone. The rhizoris is named for its function, and it's this thin little muscle right here, number 10. So you can only see it on one side because it's a cross section. And the rhizoris, if you think about it, this muscle is from the corner of your mouth up to the side here. Part of the responsible for smiling. It's raising up the corner of your mouth. Okay, then we have the masseter. The masseter is deep to the rhizoris. So on this side, the rhizoris has been removed so you can see the masseter nice and clearly. And the masseter is the muscle of chewing, of mastication. So it's named for its function. So this is the only muscle in this lecture that talks about origin, insertion, and action. Otherwise, I'm not going to ask you those things because that is a lot to learn in one semester. And we're only going over, we're not going over every single muscle in detail. So I'm going to save you a little bit of grief. But, so for this one, you do need to know. So the masseter, the origin is where the muscle originates. So it starts up here in the zygomatic arch. And then the assertion point is the movable point. So you can't move your zygomatic arch, but it inserts into the ramus of your mandible. And so that's the movable part. So when you're talking like I am right now, that bone is moving. That's the insertion point. And the action of that muscle, it elevates the mandible and closes the jaw. So if you're chewing, this is the major muscle associated with that chewing action. It's a large, strong muscle. Or as my son would say, a muscle. Or I would say that sometimes too. Okay. This one, I'll be honest, I'm not quite sure how to say this word right here. Levator labii superioris alique nasi. We're going to go with alique nasi. I could be wrong. Just make sure you can spell it correctly and you're good. Okay, so it's a thin little muscle on either side of the nose. You can see number 12. Thin little guy. And it extends all the way to the orbicularis oris, surrounding your mouth. Passes, so the ala of the nose is the flared portion of your nose. So it passes near the ala of your nose and then inserts right into that medial corner of your eye. If I would have to guess, probably associated with the lacrimal bone, because that is the bone in the medial corner, the most medial corner of the eye socket. Okay, then we have the levator labii superioris, and this is it's much larger. Again, you have left and right. So coming up on our, I really need to have you guys identify left and right. So on the next quiz, I'm going to make sure I do that. For the ear, you wouldn't have to know because we just have a picture of the ear. But if you have a picture of this picture here, for example, you should be able to tell if it's right or left. So as a quick reminder, you're looking at the picture. This is the left side, anatomically speaking, and this is the right side. It's like you're looking in a, I'm sorry. Did I switch those? No, I didn't switch those. It's like you put yourself into the picture. So you turn yourself around and put yourself in the picture, and that kind of helps you figure out right versus left. If you need help with that, please let me know, because it is important for you to be able to tell right and left in anatomical position. And since we're going to be doing all these in pictures, except for lab, hopefully you'll be doing some stuff on actual bones and identifying right and left that way. That will be really helpful for you. Okay, so levator labii superioris. This is lateral, so further away from the midline. So lateral to the levator labii superioris alic nasi, which is that long skinny muscle in the corner. Okay. The buccinator is another muscle. I love this name because it just makes me think of like the Terminator. I don't know why, but it's the buccinator. And this is deep, so deeper than the masseter. So all you can see in this picture is part of the muscle that's kind of running in this direction, number 14. And let's see, there's a better picture of it in your textbook of the buccinator. So I will likely use a better picture if you need to identify this for your quiz or exam. So hold on one second. Let me see if I can quickly find a better picture so you know which one to study from, because I like to give lots of pictures. Oh, okay, never mind. It won't let me do that. Give me 1 second. Nator. Ooh, I found a nice picture. Okay, can you see my PowerPoint still?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I'm adding a picture right now of a side profile that has the other muscles cut away so you can see the buccinator nice and clear. So it just gives you another perspective of what the buccinator looks like or where exactly it is. So it runs transversely from essentially the corner of your mouth up deep. Okay, occipitalis. This is named for its location. occipital bone. It's covering the occipital bone, the back of your skull, and you have left and right. And in this picture, this is left and this is right. Okay. Then another muscle that's named for its location is the temporalis muscle. So covering your temples, or the temporal bone. And I think one of the funny things that happened in one of my anatomy classes, someone was eating while I was lecturing about muscles. And this gentleman happened to be bald. And when he was chewing, you could see the temporalis muscle flex. And it was a great illustration to see the actual muscle flex when he was chewing. But so the temporalis muscle covers the temporal bone. It's kind of the muscle that you would be massaging the temples if you were stressed out. Okay, ignore this slide. In your book does not have the pterygoid muscles, so you do not need to know this. So please ignore this slide. Okay, moving to the neck muscles.
That slide wasn't even on the PowerPoint.
No, I
have
added
pulled
it
up.
earlier today, and then I checked the textbook and it wasn't there and didn't have time to delete it. So don't worry about it. Okay? Just ignore it. If you watch the YouTube video, ignore it. Okay? Okay. So
What is the link for the YouTube videos?
I put that in, I can't remember which section. Let me find it really quick. For some reason, all my links have just disappeared. So let's find it together so you all know. Okay, we're gonna go to Canvas. I think it's in modules. I think so. And then you scroll down to the bottom. There it is. So Zoom lectures. So those are the lecture links to YouTube. Looks like maybe one didn't get up there. So I try to get them up at the end of class every day, but it takes about an hour to convert the file to a savable file. And then it takes about another hour for it to upload to YouTube. So you may not see it till tomorrow morning. Are you able to see that link? Should be visible. Okay. Okay. Let's get to our neck muscles. The platysma. And this muscle is a thin sheet that covers your whole, is superficial, superficial to all the other muscles, covers the surface of all those right beneath the skin. So it extends from your clavicle up to the mandible. And, oh, I was wrong. This is another one that has origin, insertion, and action. So if it's there, you do need to know it. So origin is the fixed point. So that's easy way to remember. Fixed is origin. So superior thorax, so it's talking about this region here, and inserts to the mandible, which is the movable portion. So movable. So the mandible and the cheek. Cheeks up here, mandible here. And so you can tense the skin on your neck and depress the mandible. I don't know if you ever did that weird thing when you were a kid and you made your muscles stand out in your neck. You know what I'm talking about? I don't want to do it because you might think I'm weird. But you can flex the platysma and it just makes it kind of stand out more. Okay, sternocleidomastoid. This muscle has, I'm sorry, fire alarm beeped. This muscle has 2 origins and 1 insertion. No, switch that. You don't actually have to know that one for this anyways, but it has 2 points of attachment down below. So it attaches to the sternum. So this depression right here in your neck, if you feel it, you'll feel a little dip. That's your jugular notch. And to the ridge right above it, right above the jugular notch, is where the sterno portion of the sternocleidomastoid attaches. And then you move over to the clavicle, and then you have another portion that attaches to the clavicle, and those 2 muscles come together and attach all the way to the back behind your ear at the mastoid process. So you have 2 points of attachment down below. They come together and attach to the mastoid process behind your ear. So here is another viewpoint just to kind of show you the side view. So you have the clavicular head attaches to the clavicle, and then you have the sternal head that attaches to the sternum. You have 2 heads essentially. Then they come together and attach to the mastoid process of the skull. Okay, next is the trapezius. And this muscle partially is associated with the neck, kind of along the back portion here. And then the superior portion of your shoulder is a trapezius as well. But since it's part of the neck, we are including it in the head and neck. We'll include it again when we talk about the upper torso muscles. And it attaches, oh, let's back up. So you can see here kind of a side profile of the trapezius attaches to the occipital bone. A portion of it attaches down to the clavicle. And then it also attaches to several muscles, several bones and structures we haven't talked about yet. And that is coming up. Okay, sorry, back up to trapezius. So in this particular picture, the trapezius is number 3 right here. And you can see this is the portion that you can see is attached to the clavicle. But just know that it wraps around to the back of the neck and attaches to the occipital bone. Okay, then we have the scalenes. And there's a set of 3. You have the anterior, middle, and posterior scalene. I found this colored picture, which I think is helpful because in this picture, the scalenes are kind of hard to see. So in this picture is my preferred picture for the scalenes. Anterior scalene is first, most anterior. Then you have your middle scalene. And then the blue spot, the blue one right here, is the posterior scalene. So they're named based on their location. Anterior, middle, posterior. So honestly, if I asked you to identify scalenes, I like this picture better. You can just see the scalenes better, and then the colors help them stand out. So that's my hint. Okay, next we have the levator scapulae. And this is posterior to the posterior scalene. So in the picture from your lecture, right here is number 7. And in this picture, we took the trapezius off so you can see the whole levator scapula. It's attached to the scapula bone, and then it inserts up at the neck at a fixed point. So the insertion point is the scapula, which is the movable part. So when you shrug your shoulder, you're using the levator scapula, which literally means to levitate the scapula, to lift. Okay. Then we have the splenius capitis. And again, I like this picture better because you can actually see the whole muscle. In this picture, it's such a tiny little sliver, you're not really getting a good idea of what the muscle looks like and its location, where its origin and insertion are. So I like this one. I can't use this picture because it actually has the name in it, but if I had you identify the splenius capitis, I would try to make sure it was a very clear, easy picture like this one. Okay. So you find the splenius capitis underneath or deep to the trapezius muscle. Also attaches to the occipital bone and then along the spinal cord, or not the spinal cord, the vertebra in the cervical region. Okay, and then of note is the epicranial aponeurosis, which is a sheet of connective tissue. So a term that you should know or should mark down that you need to know is aponeuroses. That is literally a sheet of connective tissue that attaches muscles together. So this epicranial aponeurosis attaches the frontalis muscle all the way to the occipitalis muscle. Okay. In fact, in your book, the frontalis muscle and the occipitalis muscle are actually 2 portions of the same muscle. So sometimes it's referred to the occipital frontalis muscle, but for our class, we are doing them separately. So you have the frontalis and the occipitalis. Okay.
We don't have
Now-
this one in our
Yes.
lab book.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which one? The aponeurosis?
Yeah.
Yes, it is in your book.
No, is it in our lecture packet?
Yes, it's at the end of the lecture. I just moved it up to the other head pictures. So it's the last slide in your lecture packet. It should be the last slide.
And it was the sheet of what again?
Sheet of connective tissue.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. Specifically, it's your dense, regular connective tissue. So it's the tightly packed connective tissue, the same type that you would find that forms ligaments and tendons. It's just thin. Okay. All right, so now we're going to talk about some hyoid muscles. And let me see if I can find a better picture for hyoid muscles in the textbook. Yes. So in your textbook, page 354 is a good picture of hyoid muscles. And it has most all of them. I think it has them all. I put some supplemental pictures there too, just to kind of help. Oops, okay. Sternohyoid, named for its location. So it's attached to the sternum, right here in the middle. Remember, the hyoid bone is up underneath your chin. So this is a muscle that's attached to the sternum, to the hyoid. So you can see it here, here's the sternum attachment. This is the sternum about right there. And then the little hyoid bone right there. So in this picture, the sternohyoid is the green muscle. Okay, then we have the omohyoid. And the omohyoid has two bellies, or two sections to it. So you can see you have connective tissue separating two portions of the omohyoid muscle. And that's attached to the clavicle. So notice in this picture, the omohyoid is in blue, goes all the way to the hyoid, extends underneath the sternocleidomastoid, underneath the trapezius. Okay. Then we have the digastric muscle, and this is up underneath your chin. And digastric literally means two bellies. So this muscle is named for the fact that, yes, you have two sections of that muscle, or two bellies of that muscle. And so you can see here with this picture in green, it shows you the digastric. Actually, you have the shorter belly anterior, and then you have a much larger posterior belly that extends quite far back and is larger. Then we have the mylohyoid. And the mylohyoid is kind of a flat muscle. The muscle fibers run at an angle, so oblique, and it helps form the floor of your mouth. So when I do dissections, which I love doing dissections, I know maybe that's morbid, but I love it. It's one of the more superficial muscles that you see, and it's easy to identify because of those angular muscle fibers. All the other hyoid muscles are kind of thin rope-like muscles, except for the mylohyoid, which is more of a sheet. Thyrohyoid, this is in, hold on one sec. This is in, oh, come on, sorry. Trying to get you the picture. Okay, giving you both. It is in the picture from your textbook. It is this muscle right here. Same muscle that it's pointing to here. So it attaches. It's a very small muscle, thyrohyoid. So associated close to the thyroid gland. So your thyroid gland is right here. So it's close to the thyroid gland, which is the thyro part of it, and then attached to the hyoid. Okay. We are just powering through this stuff today. We have 15 minutes left. We are going to go ahead and pull up the blood vessels of the head and neck, and there aren't very many that you have to know. I promise. Head and neck blood vessels. Okay. Are you still able to see? Oh, looks like you can't see. Okay, one second here. Oh, I'm missing the chats. Are all the Zoom meetings posted on Canvas? Yes. Did I get Danny Brookhurst? Yes. Okay. Kirsten, what was your question? I didn't get your chat until just now. You were asking, it was like the very beginning of the lecture though.
It was I was asking about the homework worksheets.
Oh, the ones that I graded?
Yeah,
No,
because
I
I know
just
that there's
graded
one
the,
that's due today.
I haven't graded that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm letting you guys do them first. So I just did the ones that you already had a quiz on that were closed already. So I wait until it's due and done, and then I'll do them. Okay. Let's see. All right, you guys are awesome. Getting through so much today. I think safe to say, I'm pretty sure we're just about caught up. Okay. So head and neck blood vessels. Now, the cool thing about doing your quizzes and exams online is that I can use pictures and I can use pictures with color. So you'll always know whether it's an artery or a vein. Arteries are going to be colored in red. Veins are going to be colored in blue. That does not mean you don't have to say artery or vein. You always have to specify, because as you see, as we go into this, there are arteries and veins that sometimes have the same name based on their location. The only difference is that it's an artery or it's a vein. So you always have to specify. Okay, so arteries first. So looking straight off of the heart, we have three major arteries that branch right off of the aorta. The aorta is the largest artery in your body. And it extends from your heart. You have the arch that goes down through your thoracic cavity all the way down to the bottom of your abdominal pelvic cavity. So it is very long. It is largest in diameter and very strong. It has to withstand a lot of pressure. Okay, so, oh, what do we have a question? The homework due today was time set. Oh no, the time could have been set at 12 a.m. So the question from Jessica, on the homework due today was the time set at 12 a.m. instead of 11:59 p.m. And I think it was. So you know what I will do is after lecture today, I will go in and reset the due date and give you until tomorrow to do it, okay? So if you didn't get to do it, you will have one extra day to get that homework done. Thank you for bringing that up. And if someone doesn't want to send me a text in like 20 minutes to remind me, just to make sure I do that, it would be super helpful. I will try to remember. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so looking at the heart, this heart is an anatomical position. So this is the left, whoops, come on. This is the left side. This is the right side. Yeah, that's right. Okay. So the first branch on the left is the brachiocephalic trunk right here. And then the two branches to the right are the you have the left carotid, left common carotid, and then the left subclavian. And so we'll look at another picture here that will kind of show you where these branch off of. This picture is just showing you the aorta. So here's the heart is right here. So this is the aortic arch. Okay, so your brachiocephalic trunk. Your brachiocephalic trunk branches into two separate arteries. So it branches into your subclavian artery and your common carotid artery. So this is the right, and this is the left. And then we have our left common carotid and our left subclavian. And if we look over here, we have our right subclavian and our right common carotid artery. So I would find a better picture, honestly. I would use this picture of the heart because it shows you the aorta, which is an artery, shows you the brachiocephalic trunk, the left common carotid, and the left subclavian. You need to know those. I would not use this picture. In fact, if you bear with me for just 1 second, I'll find you a better one. Because it bugs me a lot. Oh, I found a good one. That was so hard to do. You probably won't like it though. Can you see this picture? Yes, okay. So this was just a quick find. It shows more than the ones you need to know, but it shows you the branches off of the aorta and shows you exactly where they're branching, which is what I wanted you to see. So you'd have a better idea of common carotid on the left, common carotid on the right, subclavian on the left and right, so you can actually see those, okay? So here's our subclavian, common carotid, left common carotid, left subclavian. And right here, brachiocephalic. It's hard writing like this. Okay, I like that picture better. It has some stuff you don't need to know, but it shows you the major ones that you do need to know. Okay, looking at a side profile, we can see, can somebody tell me, since we're looking at the brachiocephalic trunk, is this the right side or the left side that we're looking at?
Right side.
The right side.
Right.
Yes, very good. So we have our brachiocephalic trunk, which then branches into our common carotid. So let's put our R there, our right common carotid. And there's our subclavian. Our right subclavian. And then our common carotid actually branches into two different carotid arteries. We have our internal carotid. Have to remember to label those two. And then our external carotid. The external carotid branches into three more arteries that are much smaller. So it branches into the facial, so that facial artery goes right over the mandible. Branches posteriorly to the occipital. And then you have one branch that goes straight up to the temporal region as the superficial temporal artery. So those are the major branches of the carotid that you need to know. You have your external and internal carotid, and then these major branches of the external carotid. And they're named for their location. So superficial temporal, occipital, and facial. Okay, we're not going to get through all this today. Just looked at the time. Okay. This is just kind of a another way of looking at the arteries of how they branch off from each other. So if we have our aortic arch right here, our brachiocephalic trunk, okay? Our brachiocephalic trunk branches into the subclavian artery and the common carotid artery. The common carotid artery branches into the external carotid and, let's be honest, the internal carotid. I don't know why that's not there because it's in the pictures. Okay, so you do need to know internal and external carotid, okay? But the external carotid artery, you have three major branches of: the superficial temporal, the facial, and the occipital. This is all on the right. On the left-hand side, you have two branches off of the aortic arch, directly your left subclavian, and then your left common carotid artery, which then branches into your left external and left internal carotid. So once you reach the common carotid artery, the branches are all the same. It's just right versus left. So this picture here specifically is illustrating the internal carotid, which I pointed out to you before. Right here is your external carotid. Here is your subclavian. And then you have your facial, superficial temporal, and occipital branches.
What was those three again? Superficial, facial, and is it temporal?
Superficial temporal, occipital, and facial.
Superficial, facial. Oh, from the previous slide there.
Yeah, from the previous slide. So superficial temporal, facial, and occipital.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing. All right, it is 8:20. So we will start with this slide on Tuesday. And I'm anticipating us returning to the classroom next week. So I will make sure to make a broad announcement so that everybody knows. If for some reason the COVID dial hits red, I don't think we will return to the classroom. But so let's cross our fingers that that doesn't happen. Everybody be safe, wear your masks, sanitize your hands, social distance, and hopefully we will meet in class next week together. Any questions before we end up with today?
If it does go to the red and are we gonna do it on Zoom then still, or will it be just online?
Zoom.
Good.
Yeah, we will continue to do it the way we've been doing it if it goes to red.
I
Is
also have a question.
Yeah,
What one are we supposed to, what one was due today? What worksheet? Was it 2.1?
No.
let me grab my, oh, here. I don't need to go grab my schedule. I can just pull it up
I'm
real
sorry.
quick. No, it's a good question. right there. So easy for me to look it up really quick. So in modules, go to our schedule. Okay, so your first exam was due today. Looks like 4.4 and 4.5.
We're due today.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm gonna make those two due tomorrow at midnight.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
According to mine, it says 4.4 and 4.5 were due September 15th.
Yeah, that's what I have also.
Yeah.
I
Really?
think it was, I think
September
it was,
16th.
Okay.
I have the 15th. I think it was,
Oh, you know what? No, 4.2 and 4.3 are due the 16th.
No, I have
No,
September
oh,
23rd
I
for
know
those.
what it is. So it's 2 and 4.1.
2 and 4.1. 4.1.
Okay, let me pull. That is, I had it all set up.
I was gonna say 4.1 posted for me yesterday.
It posted for you yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a scheduling issue. Let me just head over to Top Hat real quick.
I think it was 4.1 head and neck region,
Yeah,
4.1.
4.1 is what I have.
That sounds
but it's
right.
already for review.
That's the one that I need to fix the due date for. So I'm pulling it up right now just to double check the dates. So I'm telling you the right thing. So 4.1, let's see. That was the skull. So worksheet 1. So I'm just going to fix that right now. And let's see, make the due date September 10 at 11:59 p.m. Okay, that should be updated now. And then it was 2.1 as well. So I'm going to fix that right now too.
2.1.
2.1. So September 10th.
Didn't we already turn in 2.1?
Yeah, 2.1
cells
was,
and tissues.
that was due a long time ago.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I think it's just the 4.1.
is it just the 4.1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you didn't do the cells and tissue, now you can.
Well, I actually have a question for my worksheet 1.1. Like I did it and I don't know if it never went through. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because I originally just had to sign in temporarily until I got my books and stuff and got my code after the first class. And so I don't know if that changed anything, but it never, like you didn't grade it on my thing, but I know I did it. So I'm like,
Oh, I need to go in and as long as there's answers for it, I will give you, you know, if they're the correct answers, I'll give you credit for them. There were some people who didn't have answers at all.
so I think see, when I go into my 1.1, it doesn't have answers, but when I go into my 2.1, it does. So I don't know why it didn't go through, I guess.
May I ask who's speaking right now? I'll just check.
It's Miranda Collins.
Miranda, okay. Let me just see if it's.
No one wants to hear me cuss on.
Yeah, for some reason it just says yours were unanswered. So maybe, so you had a temporary pass?
Yeah, for like, it was like a 7-day thing until it, and then it expired, but I had my, because I was waiting to get my code to put in.
Okay, You know what? You are not the only person. So I'm just gonna give you guys, I'll just give everybody a chance to get that done until tomorrow night.
Okay, thank
One
you.
time only, yes. So worksheet 1, if you haven't done it, do it now. Because I'm not gonna do this again.
So next week is due, well, September 15th, 4.4 and 4.5 are due on
Yes.
the 15th. Okay.
Yes. So so if
Mine's
so
the 16th. So is it the 16th or the 15th?
I'm gonna share my screen with you so you can see it.
Mine as well says the 16th.
Okay, so we're in Top Hat right now. I'm gonna click on chapter 4. So we're talking about worksheet 4.4.
Yeah.
Worksheet 4.4 in September 16.
Oh, 16th. Okay.
Yes.
That's weird. I have 15th at 10 p.m.
Really? I
Mine
don't know
says
why.
16th at 12 a.m.
Okay, do
You
I have
open
12 a.m. on
2.1
there?
as well.
I think she did.
Did it? Okay, so I have to go back through and change all the due dates.
Okay.
11:59 p.m. But I'll get that fixed, but you know it's going to be the 16th.
You reopen 2.1 homework?
Did I do that? Let me check.
Yeah, she did.
Yes, I did. So it's due tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question about the whole COVID situation.
Yes.
Even if it comes back green and you're in the clear to come back and start teaching, is there still going to be the option to continue doing this on Zoom instead of being in class as like an extra safety precaution for the students?
I would have to speak with my chair, Steve Bassett, about that. I know we have video cameras in the classroom, but I don't know how that would work. It's a good question. I'll have to ask my boss about that. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm nervous about coming back to class. I'm sure you guys are too. But all we can do is do our best to be safe and use good safety precautions. So I will keep you up to date on that.
All right.
Okay.
Do you have my 4.1 homework by chance? I can't remember if I submitted that one or not yet.
Okay, let me unshare my screen real quick. 4.1.
Yeah.
I gotta let you look at something else real quick while I look at that.
Pretty sure I got it turned in, but I wanted to make sure.
Okay. I just didn't want you guys to see grades.
It's all good.
Let's see.
Mom, you got good grade?
No.
You can't see grades, right?
No.
Okay, good. I thought I do have a grade for you.
Okay. I want to make sure.
Yeah. You can also, there is a grade book section on Top Hat, but when I go through and grade things, it won't let me change the grade there. So I'm only able to update your grade on Canvas. But if you're curious if you have a grade at all, it will tell you that you have a grade, but I wouldn't trust the grade. I know that's terrible, but it's the best I've got right now. I'm not in love with Top Hat. But it allows us not to have physical papers and stuff this semester. Okay, any other questions?
The exam is on Top Hat also, right?
No, the exam is on Canvas. Very good question. I'm glad you asked.
Only 2.1 and 2.4 is due today, correct? That's what we went.
Yes, that is correct. Your exam is due today. Let me just show you guys on Canvas. You should have the quizzes link now. So you click on quizzes and your exam one is right there. You only have one attempt, so don't click on it until you're ready to go. So you only do homework on Top Hat. Quizzes and exams are on Canvas. Okay?
I don't have the option for the quizzes.
You don't have the option for the quizzes.
If you just go into modules, you can see it as well.
Okay, if you go to modules, I thought I fixed that. Okay.
I think for the exam, I actually went to the grades and clicked on exam 1 to take the exam.
Oh, okay, that's an option too. I'm glad you guys are asking these questions and bringing this up because I got help and I thought I made quizzes visible to you guys. So I will tinker around with that some more. So you can go to modules, you can go to grades and click on it that way. That's a good way to do it too.
All the ones that have the I with the slash through it, I think, are not visible to us.
Yeah,
correct. That's what I'm thinking too.
You're right.
I don't have assignments, pages, files. I don't have any of that either.
Which is strange because I thought I switched it over, but I guess not. So if you go to modules, you're able to get your exam that way. Yeah. Okay. If you are unable to find it, please let me know. I have some things to fix tonight. I'll try to make sure I get that quizzes visible. I'll mess around with that some more. Any other questions? We're good? Okay. All right, guys, you're awesome. You've got this. You can do this. I'll be up for a little bit, so if you have questions, let me know. Probably till 10. Text me if you need anything, okay? All right. Good luck if you haven't done your exam already. I will talk to you soon.
Good night.
Night.